I made a video for Friday, and I was just very emotional because this is the time that I'm going to tell you our journey. And of course, I was crying, and then my husband was like, well, you can just do it again. And then I was like, no, I just didn't feel, I could do the video that day, and the video has to stop, and then I don't edit these videos. I just sit in here, I just talk, then he pause, then he goes and put that right back for Spanish. I upload them, and that's it. So the video has to stop, and then I was like, you know what, it's for a reason. It wasn't the day, so here I am. Anyway, long story short, I'm going to talk about our journey, and I'm prepared, so I have a Kleenex already if I need it, and I'm drinking tea today, not coffee, but just bear with me. I'm going to try to be as precise and as vague, if makes sense, as I can, to protect my son's privacy. So we had a naturally, regular pregnancy. He was born, his Apgar was fine, and we were discharged from the hospital naturally, after 3 days, which is the standard in here. And then everything was fine. He was developing normally. I remember that at the 6 months appointment, when the doctor will hold the baby to see if the baby will bear their weight on his legs, and he didn't want to do it, but she was like, no big deal, we're going to do it again in the next appointment. But I remember at that appointment, I was, telling her that when he was falling asleep, I will see that he will do a couple of movements. And she was, she was like, oh, well, don't worry. It's, naturally, how we go into, light sleep into deep sleep. And then sometimes it's kind of like when we are falling asleep and then we feel that we're falling and then we wake up and we jump in the bed. I think that it has happened to many people out there. I hope so. At least it has happened to me. So it makes sense to the explanation. But then we're going into, maybe he was 8 months or so. And I remember I was, driving back from work, and my husband calls me. He's like, he has been doing that nonstop all day. And it was before that he would do it, one time in here and in there when he was falling asleep. Then he was doing that constantly when he was falling asleep, until that day that he called me, that he said that he has been doing that all day long. So I said, okay, as soon as I make it back home, we're going to, go to ER, and let's just have that to be checked out. And we got into the ER, and I have called ahead when we were on our way there, asking if they had a neurologist on call. And they say that as soon as we get there, that they were going to be calling somebody. So when we got there, they told us right away that he was having seizures. And because now he was having them back to back, they needed to do IV medication right away and then give it to him so he could, because he was going to be, what it's called, epilepticus status. I think that's the word. If not, you know what I'm talking about. So they needed to do IV with the medication to stop the seizures right away. That was very rough because it wasn't as rough as what they were telling us that they were. It was rough because, seeing your baby, I mean, he was 8-9 months back then, being held in the bed, and with all the nurses, they were trying to poke him, but because his vein has contracted so much because of the seizures, it was hard to find, and then to get the IV. So they poke him. I think that it was probably like 6-7 times, and he's crying, he's looking for us to help him, and we couldn't. So that was the very first traumatic thing that we had. So that's how our journey started. It started at the ER, and he was admitted at the hospital. We were 3 days at the hospital, and it was November because we spent my birthday at the hospital. And We, were waiting for the neurologist who came in the next day because this was in the afternoon. Remember, I was coming back from work. So, the next morning, the neurologist came in and, we have to do blood work, which they already did the day before when they were doing the IV, waiting for the results. They scheduled an MRI right away that day, and we were going to do a video EEG. So one of the things that I'm so thankful, because he first had the MRI that day, and it was that they put me on his bed and I could carry him to go where the MRI was going to take place, and that made the whole change. Maybe not much for him. I mean, he was a baby. Sure, I could soothe him, but he still has the IV, and has a baby. That's just a lot to take in because you cannot just tell them things. But it made the world to me because it made me at least to be in charge of that situation, because everything else was just out of my hands. I couldn't help him with anything else. I couldn't, make him feel better at the moment, because that's what the medical team needed to do. I could just give him love. And for me, at least, it was just so good to be able to do that. And honestly, I feel that all hospitals around the world, they should do that. When your child is going somewhere, they should have the parents in the bed with them, wheeling them where they have to go. So at least that transition, children have, that emotional support, and also helps parents. So he got into the MRI, and we were waiting at the room. This is when it was rough for me making the video on Friday, but that was definitely the worst time of my life. Here I go again. I have had other things in my life that has been rough, but nothing can compare when you are waiting, in a room, and they're doing a test like this where your brain just goes so many places, and it's not that our minds will take us to, oh, everything is cute, and everything will be fine. Our minds take us to the worst place, and you're thinking about maybe he has a tumor, maybe there's something missing in there. It can be so many things, and I completely understand with parents that go through this, because you only know how it is until you go through it. And we're still always hoping for the best. In his case, they didn't find anything. It came back normal. So then they did the video EEG. And as he was falling asleep, then that's where, he had a seizure, and they were able to rule out what type of seizure. And here's the thing with seizures, that everyone has always been picture that a seizure is like a grand mal seizure, but there's different type of seizures, and all of them present differently because all our brains are differently. And when I always say that, when I brought it up to the doctor, and no blame to the doctor at all, because she did say, hey, make a video so the next time that you come for the visit, I can see the video. Because when parents are trying to explain things to doctors, if they don't see it, it's just so hard. So take a note. When you have any like that mommy daddy sense that say there's something going on, make a video and bring it up to the doctor, because that will be the best thing for them to see it right there. So anyway, there was just something inside that I was like, there's just something going on. I cannot explain that. Parents, you know what I'm talking about. It's something that it's a little thing inside that just tell us, I don't know, bring it up to the doctor. And that's what we did. So anyway, when we got the diagnosis that he had epilepsy, and it took us out of nowhere, because we were like, well, we thought that seizures were like this type of seizures. And of course, we were educated in how seizures are and how they start and what happens to the body and etc. And that's how our journey started. So he is over 7 years old now, and I can tell you that it has been very rough, our journey, because it has been one thing after the other. And I'm going to talk about, trauma for parents that have children with medical conditions, or where your children have to go to the hospital so often, which is totally different from what other parents go. These literally so the journey, it is different when you go through medical things, but I feel that it's still hard for everyone. We just take it to the next level. But if your journey is similar to mine or not, or maybe you started at a different time, see that it happens to most of us that our journeys are all different, but the struggle, I feel that it is the same. The heartbreaks, the trauma that goes with that. That's what I feel that it makes us, the same at the end of the day. No matter how many needs or medical needs your child has, it is a struggle at the end of the day. When the days are hard, but at the same time, the blessings that come when something good happens, it's priceless. So, well, that's all for today, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.